With fuel prices climbing and electric technology becoming more accessible, Australians are asking one big question. Is it finally the time to switch? And while it sounds simple, the answer actually depends entirely on how you drive, where you live, and what you need from your car. Because electrification isn't one size fits all. Over the next 2 episodes, we're going to break down all the different types of electrified vehicles, from hybrids to plug-in hybrids to fully electric cars and commercial vehicles. And importantly, we're not just going to talk about where this technology works really well, we're also going to be honest about where it maybe doesn't, at least not yet. This is Time to Switch. Joining me over the next 2 episodes is Drive Director of Content, James Ward. And James, isn't this lovely? But a change of pace. I don't think you'll ever get me back out onto location again.
Look, I have to say, it's kind of nice to be in here, especially as we're talking about something that is, well, look, so relevant for a lot of Australian buyers. And I think doing it here in the studio where we can show things behind, it really helps us add a lot of context to this.
You said we've been talking about EVs for a while. We've been researching them, test driving them, and it feels like now more than ever, Australians are suddenly taking EVs a bit more seriously.
Well, this is it. The fuel prices went up. We're seeing people suddenly say, well, hang on a minute, can I save the weekly budget? Is going to a hybrid or a plug-in hybrid or a full electric car really going to save me money? And the fact that the cars are now that much more affordable, the technology is so much more prevalent, you've got way more choice in the market, people are starting to come to terms with something that, yes, we've been looking at for years, but I think now the time is, well, it's right for a lot of people.
You mentioned choice and you mentioned some different drive lines there as well, and I think that can be still a little bit confusing and overwhelming for a lot of people too.
Yeah, and this is the thing. It is a horses for courses type thing. Not everything will work for everybody, and I think the way that we're going to look at this in the show is we will show, again, where they work and call out where they don't, and I think that's just as important.
And I think suiting people's different needs is very important too, and that's another thing that we're going to unpack in this show.
Absolutely, and I think it's the way that you use your car which can kind of dictate, but we will run the numbers as well, and I think that's going to be a bit telling because we know that some form of electrification will probably be cheaper, but how much cheaper? And I think this is the key.
Okay, well, get comfy because we've got lots to unpack. Let's start with probably one of the least intimidating ways to step into electrification. I can speak on this. It's a hybrid. The reason hybrids have become so popular is simple. You don't really need to change your behaviour. Unlike a full EV or a plug-in hybrid, there's no charging cable, no range planning and no learning curve. So for many Australians, this feels like the easiest place to start. This is the Honda ZR-V, a compact yet spacious SUV. It has a 2-litre petrol engine paired to a lithium-ion battery and 2 electric motors, and this one costs about $50,000. Fuel consumption-wise, it's good for just 2.5 litres per 100 kilometres around town, and the best part, no plugs. That means that this is the perfect first step into an electrified car and lower fuel bills. Driving a hybrid like the ZR-V is exactly the same as driving any other car, except you may notice that it will be silent at very low speeds, like when you're stuck in traffic or in a car park. And that is when the car is using the battery instead of the engine, which saves fuel. In terms of actually driving though, you don't need to think about it as everything is just done automatically. Fun fact, did you know that the first ever hybrid arrived on Australian roads 25 years ago? And it wasn't a Prius, it was a Honda, a super aerodynamic 2-door coupe, the Honda Insight. Honda now offers hybrids across their vehicle range and, in the case of the ZR-V, across all trim levels. What's really good to know too is that even with a complicated driveline, so having both petrol and electric in the one car, it's still cost effective to own, costing just $200 a year to service. This is something that was a massive appeal for me. The fact that I don't have to change my routine. And of course, I'm lowering my fuel bills.
Yeah, absolutely, because you've got a hybrid, so you can see this. And I think for a lot of Australians, this is where they make a lot of sense, particularly if you can't charge at home. You don't need to change your lifestyle in any way.
But then, of course, I am still using petrol with, by the way, my car still has unleaded 91, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, look, absolutely. You are still dealing with fuel price rises, but you will use less of it. You do have to fill your tank, but you'll go further between fills.
Which naturally raises the question, if someone wants to actually start driving without using fuel at all, but still wants some flexibility, what happens then? Coming up, James plugs in to plug-in hybrids, and I take a look at fully electric family cars.
Plug-in hybrids are really interesting and are growing in popularity because they sit right in the middle between a hybrid and a fully electric car. They can potentially handle your daily commute using no fuel at all, but still give you a petrol engine for longer trips. So in theory, they sound like the best of both worlds.
Well, welcome to the world of the plug-in hybrid. This is an MG HS Super Hybrid. And under here, it has a 1.5 litre turbocharged petrol engine. And under there, it's got a 24.7 kilowatt hour battery pack. Now combined, they give the car a total range of around 1,000 kilometres. Or you can choose to drive up to around 120 kilometres with pure electric driving. And when you consider that the average Australian daily commute is around 40 kilometres, that gives you quite a few days of driving around without using a drop of petrol, providing you listen to the name and regularly plug it in. Well, first things first, driving a PHEV is easy, but there are a few things you may need to know, particularly if you're used to driving a petrol or a regular hybrid. For starters, most of them, like our MG here, will offer an EV-only drive mode. Now this can be pretty handy, particularly for commuting or just pottering about town, where you can run the car on its battery alone and not use a drop of fuel. On top of that, many cars, and the MG will do this as well, allow you to adjust the amount of regenerative force that comes from the car when braking. And this basically captures energy back into the battery, which can help improve range. Now, in this car, it's a setting on the screen. Some cars you can use the paddle, but it's yet another way that a plug-in hybrid, takes a little bit of getting used to, but honestly, you'll be fine in no time. But all that said, if you do leave the car in its hybrid mode, it works it all out for you. So whether it's running around town or going for a longer drive, the car will automatically switch between petrol and electric to give you the most efficiency and the longest range. So, where does a plug-in hybrid like our MG work best? Well, if you like the idea of pure electric driving with zero fuel use, but also need the backup and flexibility of the petrol engine, then a PHEV could probably be the right idea for you. It sort of is the best of both worlds. But you do need to be able to plug it in, and if that poses a problem, maybe you might need to rethink and look at a regular hybrid instead.
James Ward, I'm for getting through that because it looked absolutely freezing. But the MG PHEV, it really does seem like that perfect middle ground, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the plug-in hybrids, you're getting a lot of usable range now from the electric motor. But the tip in the name is you really do need to plug it in.
That's the thing. I mean, coming from a person that rarely charges her phone, I'm not sure that I'm ready to, look for charging stations or have a setup and plug in my car.
Well, this is the thing. If you've got off-street parking, so if you've got a charging solution, you can park in the driveway or a garage and you can plug it in overnight. It will make a lot of sense to a lot of people. But if you don't charge it and you're running on that petrol engine alone, you're basically carting around a heavier car because the battery still weighs quite a bit.
Okay, so then charging really comes into the conversation, doesn't it, about easy access? And we've been in some pretty sticky situations before, haven't we?
Yeah, and I think it is one of those considerations, and it's part of this to say an EV isn't for everybody.
What about those people that, are travelling with a heavier load or are going long distances? They might just want to stick to something like a diesel for now.
Well, this is the thing. 7 of the top 20 Australian new cars are diesel utes and 4x4s because there's no direct like-for-like electrified solution there. So yeah, diesel still has its place. Make no mistake, Australia is a big place. And despite the growth of electrification options, for many drivers, diesel is still the most flexible and most efficient way to stay on the road. In fact, of the top 20 best-selling cars in Australia, 35% are diesel utes and 4x4s. If you need long-distance touring paired with heavy towing or carrying ability, electrification largely isn't ready for you, and you're best off with a modern, efficient diesel.
So James, the title of this show is Time to Switch, but for many Australians, as we've mentioned, right now might just not be the time yet.
Yeah, this is it. We're not saying that everybody must go to some sort of electrification right now. And for a lot of Australians, it's actually probably better to stay with something like a diesel ute, because if you're doing a lot of towing and touring and long-distance driving into regional areas, it actually still makes the most sense.
The other end of the spectrum, though, if your driving is predictable, if it is mainly urban, fully electric cars are becoming a bit hard to ignore, aren't they?
That's right. And you see them on the road everywhere, and we know that this is what people are thinking about.
One of the first surprises people tell us about when jumping into a new car is the radio, because while Apple CarPlay and Android Auto have transformed the way we use our phone on the road, the radio can sometimes feel buried. And that's a real problem because we use radio not just for entertainment, but for important things like traffic, news, emergency alerts, things that we actually need on the road. Well, the good news is Australian radio stations got together and built something to fix that. It's called Radio App. Radio App sits right inside your CarPlay or Android Auto alongside all your other apps, so every station is just a tap or a voice command away. No need to switch out of your phone projection, no fumbling through menus while you drive. And because Radio App streams over your phone's data, you get crystal clear radio anywhere. Planning a long road trip? You're covered the whole way. Over 350 Australian stations, all in one place. And if your car runs Android Automotive OS like a Volvo or Polestar, you can skip the phone altogether and download Radio App directly to the car's dashboard. Set it up once via your mobile app and then it's just there once you start your engine. Radio App is completely free, no subscription, no catch. Set it up via your Apple Store or Google Play or head to radioapp.com.au.
Well, after the break, we dump the pump completely and look at fully electric vehicles for both home and work.
So we've already covered hybrids, plug-in hybrids, and now it's time to go fully electric.
Yeah, absolutely, Em. And I think there's some few things that are outside of just the car that you can do with an EV. And one of them is called V2L, or vehicle to load, which basically allows you to use the car's big battery to power external devices.
I know that term very well because I have used it to do my hair out on the field and plugged in a straightener and a hairdryer, even made myself a coffee or two.
Look, it is actually kind of useful. We've used it to power lights, and obviously that's for us, but for people who are going camping or have remote work sites or even need to use emergency power, it can be surprisingly useful, and it is an added benefit of having a big battery car.
So technology really isn't the big question anymore when it comes to EVs then?
No, it's about making them fit into your life and how you really use your car every day.
One of the biggest growth areas in the EV market is commercial vehicles, but I still think there's a little bit of confusion about how these can actually work.
Yeah, that's right, Em. There are a lot of considerations for business buyers, but this technology is becoming very popular around the world. And so you may be surprised at just how capable a working EV can be.
This is the LDV eDeliver 5, a fully electric van. And it could be an absolute winner for business operators who do a lot of urban driving and are looking to significantly lower their running costs. Now, functionally, just like every other van, there's a good, usable workspace up front and a big functional load area down the back. The thing is, though, at under $50,000, you're paying roughly the same as you would for a traditional petrol or diesel van. making the decision to buy this one about functionality and less about price. Well, driving an electric van for work is actually a far smoother experience than many drivers would be used to. It's nice and light and zippy in traffic, and even without a bulkhead, it's pretty quiet too. Now, in terms of range, the eDeliver 5 claims 335 kilometres on a WLTP cycle. Now, that may not sound like much, but if you're spending the entire day running around in urban areas like we are now, you'll probably find it's actually more than enough. In fact, in the next episode, I'm going to hit the road with a load in the eDeliver 5 and show you just how well a van like this can perform in urban duties and how it may be able to work for your business. Because electric vans are already in use by some pretty big delivery services in Australia, like Australia Post and some supermarkets.
James, I think what's really interesting is that range suddenly feels very different when you actually look at how businesses operate day to day.
Yeah, absolutely. Most commercial vehicles are not doing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kilometres every single day. And so suddenly the conversation becomes less about maximum range and more about actual usage and running costs.
Exactly, which is something we'll really dig into in the next episode. So while James has looked at how EVs can work for business, I wanted to find out what they're actually like to live with as a family. Up next, it's time to electrify your family with the Zeekr 7X, and I show you just how much EV you can get on a budget. So far in Time to Switch, we've looked at hybrids, plug-in hybrids and electric commercial vehicles. But now it's time to see how an EV can work for your family.
This is the Zeekr 7X, a medium-sized electric SUV that is chock-a-block full of technology and functionality, and it won our Best Medium SUV under 60k category in the 2026 Drive Car of the Year Awards. It is the perfect example of family SUVs that are now available at a price point comparable to both plug-in hybrid and regular hybrid models on sale. It also has a lot less mechanical hardware like drive shafts and, well, an engine, which also means that it makes great use of space, particularly on the inside. Driving an EV, you'll find it quiet and smooth and even punchy when you need it. There are some things to get used to though, like the lack of noise when you turn it on and the regenerative braking that James mentioned earlier with the plug-in hybrid, but honestly, drive it around for a while and you'll get used to it in no time. Once you get past those things, like I've mentioned, one of the biggest draw cards of having a fully electric car is the interior space. This Zeekr 7X may look like a medium SUV on the outside, but it is huge on the inside. Charging as well has evolved over time. If you are looking for an EV, then consider how fast it can recharge, because both cars and chargers have their limits. This Zeekr is the fastest charging car in Australia and will take you from 10 to 80% in about 15 minutes on an ultra rapid charger. That is incredible. Now, when I said punchy, well, this has 475 kilowatts. That's more than a Porsche 911 Turbo. One of the biggest queries that people have about EVs is price. And while this Zeekr may cost upwards of $70,000, you can get a lot of electric car for about half that price. This here is the MG4 Urban, and it's one of 13 different models that are priced under $40,000. It is a compact hatchback with about 405 kilometres of range, same size or similar size as a VW Golf, but it's cheaper. If you're used to driving a hatchback, you'll feel right at home driving a car like this one, the MG4 Urban. Everything feels easy. Easy to see out of, easy to drive, easy to park. We see a lot of people choosing a car like this one as their second family car, something that is small, affordable and inexpensive to run for simple commuting and whizzing around town to run errands when you don't need the space and flexibility of a larger car. So, where does a full electric car work best? Well, honestly, If you can charge it easily, they're actually incredibly easy to live with, and they're more affordable to run, more so than a traditional petrol and even hybrid vehicle. Charging is key though. If you can charge at home with off-street parking or in the garage, then it's super easy. If you live in an apartment building or maybe need to park on the street, then it can be a little bit more challenging. My advice to you is to do your research and check the charging facilities that are near you. Make sure you see how easy they are and how busy they are too before you make the switch.
I've got to say, Em, that Zeekr does look pretty cool.
You know what? It was very cool. Probably one of my favourite EVs that I've driven. And yes, things to get used to, like in this car in particular, there's no start-stop button. You just jump in and you're on your way. But it doesn't take much time to actually get used to driving a fully electric car.
No, I completely agree. That initial kind of barrier of like, this is going to be different, you do get used to it very quickly. But of course, you still need to consider how you're going to charge it.
That is the thing, because I actually took this out regional. It wasn't too bad, but the important thing is to do your research.
That's right. If you can park it at home, we've been saying this for ages, in a driveway, in a garage, you can charge it at home. It's very, very simple. But if you're relying on the public charging network, say you live in an apartment building or you have no off-street parking, do your research, but then maybe consider that just a hybrid could actually be a better solution.
Exactly. And well, James, we've covered a lot in this episode, but next time we're going to crunch the numbers in more detail. Insurance, servicing, charging costs and running costs to see if electrification really stacks up financially.
Plus, I'll hit the road in the LDV van again to test whether an electric commercial vehicle can genuinely handle Australian business life.
And we'll answer more of your biggest EV questions.
So join us next time as we continue asking, is it finally time to switch?